Recording live from the Lucky Number 7 Lounge in the basement of Dine Drink Travel World Headquarters in the far barren wastelands of far west Texas. This is Dine Drink Vegas, and I'm your host, John, aka the Baller on a Budget. You are listening to episode number 13, and we are about to get sportsy with Vegas, giving you a rundown of our favorite places to catch football and any other sport you want to see. We fire Chat GPT and bring back the rule of humans as I have created our cocktail of the day. And we're going to run down the Vegas news that you probably already heard, but we feel like talking about it anyway. And now it's time to bring him in, the founder of Dine Drink Travel himself, the leader in the luxury lounge, the king of comps, the high roller of the high plains, the man who is always waiting for that limo to carry him away to his resort. It's Bill. Bill, how in the world are you today?
I am still angry at you for what you and Chat GPT did to me on the last episode with that whatever it was we drank for the drink of the day then.
Oh my goodness. Yeah. Who rims cocktail glasses with graham crackers?
You know what? It's okay in life to make a mistake, but it's not okay to keep making the same mistake. Fortunately, we fired Chat GPT and we hired you as our resident bartender. John, what are we drinking today?
So what we're drinking today, for now, I'm calling the Ango-Apple Sour. And this is a variation on another famous cocktail called the Trinidad Sour. Now, I had my first experience with the Trinidad Sour at the now defunct Gastro Pig restaurant in downtown Las Vegas, and I miss that place already. And it is a cocktail where the lead spirit is Angostura bitters. Now, this is an incredibly complex and intense cocktail, and I don't think it's unfair to say that even if you get one perfectly crafted, it would not be to your liking.
Correct. I like Angostura bitters, but I like a couple of dashes of them in the middle of a whiskey drink.
As opposed to, say, 2 ounces. That's a lot. Angostura bitters are designed to be a complement to something else rather than the focus of what you're drinking. Right, which I like it as the focus, but it is very intense. And the Trinidad Sour is an exercise in balance. And the ones I've had in Vegas have been perfect. But as a home bartender, I could not quite get there. And then even our favorite bartender in town, and granted, he only took one bite at the apple, as it were, and didn't quite get it. Even as somebody who enjoys that much Angostura, if you get it a little out of balance, it's tough. So I wanted to take what I loved about that drink, and I wanted to create something that was a little bit more forgiving and flexible. So if you don't have a certain ingredient, you could potentially sub other things out. And also that tamed the intensity of the Angostura in a way that complemented it. So the Trinidad Sour is Angostura with a little bit of rye whiskey, orgeat or orgeat, or however you want to pronounce it, which is an almond flavored syrup, that sort of thing. And so I wanted to do something a little more straightforward. And my thought was, what is it that I love about Angostura? And it's the cinnamon and the cloves. And when you think about what goes well with those flavor profiles, the two things that pop to my mind when I think about cloves are either ham or apples. And I am not making a ham flavored cocktail.
Ugh.
No, that would be a bad idea. So I went with apples. Now, what we're using today, this particular cocktail, we've got 2 ounces of Laird's bottled and bond apple brandy. You could use any apple brandy that you want. I like the bottled and bond because it's at least 4 years old and it's 100 proof, so it's strong. It'll stand up to the bitters. But you could use, say, an 80 proof. Laird's has some out there. There's some other apple brandies on the market. But
you wouldn't want to use like an apple flavored whiskey, like a Crown Royal apple, right?
I probably would not, because they use that fake apple flavor and it reads sweeter than it is. Some of the apple flavored whiskeys and vodkas on the market are also back sweetened. If you wanted to go that direction, you definitely would want to rethink the amount of simple syrup, and we're going to get to that in a minute. And maybe you just like things on the sweeter side. I kind of like that fake Jolly Rancher apple flavor, but I don't think it's the right thing for this drink. In fact, I've got a drink idea down the road, if you don't fire me after this, of using Jolly Rancher powder mix to make a Jolly Rancher apple cocktail. But anyway, here's our bill. 2 ounces of Laird's apple brandy. Then we're going to go with 1 ounce of Angostura. So it's a lot, but it's less than using in the Trinidad Sour.
an ounce each of simple syrup. And because we're fat middle-aged men, the one we use today happened to be a sugar-free simple syrup put out by Jordan Skinny Syrups, but you could go with real sugar if you want, or you could play around with this. I think if you had a pecan-flavored syrup, maybe a caramel-flavored syrup, you might be able to get away with that if you happen to have orgeat or orgeat in your home bar. Maybe you're big into tiki drinks. I think you could go with that as well. You could vary this up. And then an ounce of either lemon or lime juice. We didn't have fresh limes on hand, so we're using Key West lime juice, because I think most bottled lime juices are pretty terrible, but the Key West stuff actually, to me, tastes pretty good. You shake all of that up in a strainer and you serve it in a cocktail glass, like a coupe or a martini glass. And like I said, the way I built this, the dominant flavor is still Angostura. It's there. You get the cinnamon, you get the spices, but it's not as in your face as in the Trinidad Sour. And I personally think that the combination of the lemon and the apple really tames it a bit. We've got a dehydrated orange wheel as our garnish, so that little extra bit of citrus plays so nice in there. Like I said, we could mix this up. I think rye whiskey would be fine, bourbon would be fine, a regular brandy would be fine, but I think the apple brandy to me was the right call. So I have two questions for you, because I want to get your thoughts on this drink, and I want to ask too, and I'm not going to get my feelings hurt if the answer to both of these is no. But knowing that the Trinidad Sour was just too much intensity for your palate, did I make a decently crafted cocktail? Because what we had last week from Chat GPT, it's not just that we didn't like it. I cannot imagine any human being with taste buds or the ability to sense texture would like it. That was just irredeemably bad. So did I craft something that at least belongs in the cocktail canon, even if it's not for you? And B, is this the kind of thing you might drink again on a pleasant fall day?
So, in terms of the first question, yeah, no, this is absolutely a custom craft cocktail. The reason I wouldn't have come up with it, or an excellent one, is I tend to think in terms of things with fewer ingredients. I mean, I don't do a highball most of the time, just a blank and blank, but I'll put in like one thing, like a dash of bitters, maybe an orange twist or something like that. So I make less complex cocktails than you do. So yeah, this is absolutely a beautifully crafted cocktail. In terms of whether I would drink it, I think you hit the nail on the head when calling it a fall cocktail. This tastes to me like Thanksgiving. So if you're asking me whether I would drink this in July out here in the far reaches of Western Texas, no, absolutely not. This tastes like a late fall cocktail. We are recording this on October the 8th of 2023. So this is the first weekend that is hit in the mornings. It is pleasantly cool. And in the afternoons, the temperature doesn't make you hate yourself.
Right.
So this is about the first weekend of the year I'd want to drink it. If you and your family are able to make Thanksgiving this year over here at Dine Drink Travel World headquarters, pardon me, I think I would ask you to make the drink then, because that's what this tastes like to me. And in terms of the base liquor you use, I think that the apple brandy is absolutely the right choice. It's not that you couldn't make this with whiskey. You could, but that makes it a different thing. With the apple brandy, it tastes to me like a harvest festival.
Yeah, and so I'm going to count that as a win. I think we got it. Yeah, and I was thinking too, like if you didn't, here's some Southern coming out. If you had like a shoe fly pie or a mincemeat pie, and this was your dessert cocktail, it wouldn't be the worst thing in the world. All right.
So traditionally, and I'm sorry, one last thing.
Yeah.
Traditionally for Thanksgiving, we had to sneak our whiskey, because neither of my grandmothers drank. And if you would like to defy them about that or any other point, you'll have an eternity in heaven. Knock yourself out. Let me know how that works out for you. So we always had to sneak our whiskey. So traditionally, for me, the Thanksgiving drink has been whatever kind of airport mini bottle I could hide in my pocket. Now that I'm at the point where I am sadly and unfortunately able to make a cocktail, this tastes to me like what I serve with the main meal on Thanksgiving Day.
And I will be happy to make them if my family happens to join yours on that day. We don't have our plans yet, but I also think this would be great, after trick-or-treaters have run through your neighborhood and you're sitting around the fire pit on Halloween, assuming it's not 95 degrees, because that's a thing that happens in our neck of the woods for Halloween some years.
It absolutely is.
Yeah, I would say like today, I'm thinking fall, but I think, it's in the 80s. A lot of parts of the country, this is still summer weather, but it's not 80 million degrees. So to Texans, yeah, fall is here because it's under 90, so we'll take it. So let's move on to our main topic of the day before we get to the news, because it is fall, it is football season, and let's talk about our favorite places to watch sports ball. We're both big football fans. You're more college. I like the NFL, but we watch some other sports as well. Let's talk about, each of us made a list of our 5 favorite places to watch sports in Vegas. And there's some overlap, but I think we're going to run through my list first, and then we'll come back through and we'll run through yours. So
let's go for it.
I would say that my number one pick is a bit of a comp out. If you have ever Googled where to watch sports in Vegas, this is the answer you're going to get. And that is the sports viewing and book area at Circa downtown, where you've got, 30-foot tall wall of video screens showing every game you can imagine. And as long as it's not raining and water pours through the screens, it's an incredibly entertaining experience. It's like being in an IMAX movie theater with all the sports all at once.
Okay, what else do you have on your list?
So at number 2, I put in the BetMGM bar, specifically at Park MGM. Of course, BetMGM is what they call their sports books at all of their resorts around town. The one at Park MGM, I just happen to like the food options there. They've got the little side Betty grill next to it. I actually think it's pretty decent wings for a Vegas hotel bar, and at least the last time we were there, the bar prices didn't make me hate myself, which not every property gets that, and we'll get to that when we get to the news. But yeah, I really enjoyed that space quite a bit. The beer garden at Paris. Now, granted, I'm a bit of a beer snob, and it's the Budweiser beer garden. I think they call it Beer Park, but it's upstairs in an elevated space. So as long as it's not 90 million degrees, it's kind of nice up there. They have space heaters for the rare cold snaps in Vegas. You could people watch, or more specifically, my wife gets to people watch while I'm watching Sportsball. And even though the beers they have on tap are generally not my favorite beers, there's a wide range of them, and even beer snobs can find something worth drinking there. The food's not too terrible. I would say Bar Canada at the D, which is upstairs by Bacon Nation. Obviously, if you happen to be in town for hockey seasons, it's a Canadian-themed bar.
And I apologize for cutting in here, but y'all, on some other episode, if we haven't already talked about it, we'll talk about the downtown pub crawl. That's where I discovered Bar Canada, which is... I'll talk about Sportsball in a second, but it is a lovely place to have a cocktail. If you haven't been there, you should check it out.
Yes, and they carry one of my favorite beers on earth, which is from Unibrew out of Canada, called La Fin du Monde, the end of the world. It is very similar to a Belgian triple, and I love that beer. Now, it is a behemoth. I think it's somewhere in the 9% alcohol by volume
dear Lord.
neighborhood. So if you drink 2 or 3 pints of that, you may experience La Fin du Monde. I mean, it really can put a number on you, but I really love that beer. And then and I didn't really do these. I don't know, Circa's number 1. The other 4 I think are interchangeable depending on my mood. But what I put 5th, not necessarily in 5th place, is getting a pool cabana with a TV. And specifically, if I'm on a budget, I want to be at the one at the Plaza because it's a very affordable experience. But most of the pool cabanas around town offer a TV. And I got to tell you, dipping in and out of the pool during the slow parts of the game or during halftime, and then getting back in your cabana with your fan and, the waitress in a very modest swimsuit or not has come in, not modest. I mean, there will be a swimsuit, has brought you a fresh bucket of beer or whatever it is you're drinking. It's not a bad way to catch a game.
So what I'm looking at in your list here, you want to watch sports around as many people as possible. Is that a fair statement?
Yeah, usually I like sports viewing as a communal event. Like, I usually watch my sports at home because, my wife wants to watch the budget and that kind of thing. But honestly, I don't live that far away from a Buffalo Wild Wings. Not my favorite sports bar, but it's an electric place.
I can't imagine that you haven't walked to Buffalo Wild Wings from your house.
Yeah, and I've absolutely done it. I mean, we've got a couple other sports bars in town that I really like. I like the communal aspect of sports most of the time. The pool cabana is nice because you can get a little bit more of a personal setting, but yeah, I like the party vibe when everybody's into a game.
So are you trying to actually watch every bit of the game or not?
Depends on the game.
All right.
And it really does. I mean, sometimes I do want to catch every play. Sometimes I don't. So yeah, it sort of depends on how invested in the particular game I am, which is either am I a fan of that team or was I dumb enough to bet because I'm bad at sports betting. But if I don't have any money on it and it's not one of my teams, yeah, I'm probably in and out of the game.
Okay. No, that makes sense, right? So if I'm watching the game at all, it's probably a game I'm into, but I'll talk about that when I get to my list in a second.
So for me, I think about the social aspects of it, and most of these, especially Circa, you really are getting into the vibe of the crowd. I mean, we did our March Madness rundown where we watched the opening weekend at the Plaza in their showroom, and it was just a lot of fun because they would have somewhere between 2 and 4 games on the screen at one time. Not everybody was watching the same game with the same intensity, but when something good or bad happened to a certain table's team, it was really, really, really entertaining to watch their reaction. And I like the energy in a crowded sports watching venue. Like, to me, that's part of the fun.
I do remember that, and that was a very good day. And to your credit, that's not a day I would have had you not suggested it. So cool, good on you.
Yeah, honestly, I wouldn't be mad at the Plaza if they just converted that space into a sports watching lounge, because I really loved the atmosphere and the vibe in there.
All right, cool. So, I mean, I like all of those spots. You're going to go watch the one big game, right? Like, your Horned Frogs make it back to the national championship game, and there's some chance they don't get prison stomped.
I would argue that the Horned Frogs never entirely made it to that game.
All right, your Horned Frogs make a college football semifinal.
Yeah.
Where they were quite successful. Where do you watch that one big game?
Yeah. I think it depends on the group we're with and that sort of thing. If I'm by myself, I definitely want the big crowd. If I'm with a bunch of people that are into the same game, I know where you're going with this, and I can see the argument you're about to make. I still tend to, I handle losses by my squads with a little bit more grace than some people. So I'm okay, getting kicked in the groin publicly by my friends, making fun of my team for doing badly. So I still think I want the big vibe.
And I want to back up for a second. I want to apologize to the internet because I'm a proud Aggie. The UT Oklahoma game yesterday was before our game, and I may have pointed out to all my friends who are UT fans, which is most of my fans, that their team did in fact lose in excruciating fashion, and I might have been a jackass about it until my Aggies did what they do in the Alabama game yesterday. As
good Protestants and Anglicans, we may not believe in karma, but she always does seem to haunt you whenever you taunt other fan bases.
Well, but for a lot of people, like, karma's kind of around. For me, she's like right there. She was on top of it, that day.
Yeah.
So anyway, I apologize, internet.
Yeah. So that's hilarious. All right. So let's go through your list, and we have some overlap, but we also have a couple of big differences.
So, like all good friendships or all good relationships, there are both points of overlap and points of departure. So let me start with the assumptions I'm making when I get together my list of where I'm going to watch Sportsball in Vegas. The first thing is I am probably actually watching the game, right? Like, I actually want to see almost every play. The second thing is I'm a fundamentally introverted sort of person, and what that means is I don't want to watch it in the presence of as many other people. I want to watch it with my friends. Don't really care about all the other people in the room.
Right.
The final thing is inside is good. God created air conditioning for us to enjoy, and I want to be in that part of his creation as much as I possibly can. So that's kind of how I do things and how I did this. So the top thing on my list was to get a hotel suite, which we've done several times. We talked about that on episode 12, the hotel suite we had at the Delano. I've also watched Sportsball in suites at the Aria and at the Bellagio and at lots of other places. And if you've got together a group of, let's call it 4 to 10 dudes, and you're going to watch a game, that is absolutely the way to do it, because you can get a little bit louder. You can freely point out the flaws in one another's teams. And if the spirit moves one of you to dance suddenly in the presence of your friends, you are free to do that.
Dear Lord.
Hotel security is not going to stop you. One of our friends may have made choices which all of the rest of our friends regretted.
Yes, that's fair. And I will say, on the baller on a budget scheme of things, you can find reasonably priced suites, or you just hope one of your friends that's willing to spend more on their room gets a suite and you can still get a base room. But a reasonably priced suite to watch sports, and then you buy a bottle of whatever spirit you like, or, a 12-pack of beer or whatever. There is a cost savings there. Like, I would argue, if you're really going to get into a game, the cost of upgrading to a moderate size suite at a moderately priced property is probably going to cost less than the bar tab you're going to run up at some of these sports bars.
Oh yeah. For me, particularly if you look at it, divided across however many people you've got.
Yeah.
Like when we were at the Delano last month, there were 5 of us there, and we got like 3 bottles of whiskey, which we nursed over the course of whatever it was. We were there for quite a few days, and drank most of it there. You can order a bucket of beers, but it's great. The Delano's a good deal. Treasure Island's a good deal. And if you want to spend some more money, because you've got friends who are having a good year or something, there are other places like the Aria or Caesars or Bellagio,
yeah,
which are phenomenal choices. So I love to get a hotel suite option, because it also kind of lets you be you, and I kind of want to visit with my friends too. Now, my next 2 spots are actually similar to John's spots. The Circus Sportsbook would be lovely, particularly if there are fewer of you around, or if you want to watch lots of games at one time or something like that. And if you just want a bar, the BetMGM bar at Park MGM is phenomenal, and one of the better values in terms of the drinks and snacks and stuff like that. It's not that it's cheap because it's Vegas. It's just that it's cheaper than some other places. So on those 2, we agree. After that, I really like the Sportsbook at Mandalay Bay, because you can spread out pretty easily. You can see all of the games. I also just kind of like the Mandalay Bay complex. And finally,
hold on, I want to stop there for a second.
All right, cool.
So let's talk about traditional sportsbook spaces, because the Park MGM has a bar and restaurant attached to that. There are some other casinos that charge for seats at sports books, but I want to stop there because I think Mandalay is a good one. I don't know the rules of Mirage under new ownership, but certainly the way MGM ran it, the same thing was true at Mirage.
Sure.
And if you want a really small space, even New York offers this to you. One of the great things about these open sports books like Mandalay, they don't charge you for a seat, and they don't make you buy from their bar. You can bring in outside beverages.
Right.
So if you're trying to save some money and you've been over to the CVS, the ABC store, Walgreens, and you've gotten you a couple of big silos of beer and a shot for like $10 or whatever they charge, or you have the bottle in your hotel room, so you've gone up and made yourself like a good sized travel and drink that you've brought down to that area. One of the nice things about that setting is you could still save a little bit of money on how you do your food and drink during the game. But it is nice because when we're watching a game in the suite, we're all watching the same game, and that's great when we're all into that game. But if you've got a group where everybody they've got an interest in slightly different things, or if it's not your team and you've got bets on 5 games at once, there's something to be said for these big open format sports books.
No, there absolutely is. But again, that goes against my stranger danger sort of vibe.
Right. Although some of them are big enough to have quiet corners where nobody's going to mess with you, which Mandalay absolutely did.
Yeah, that is why Mandalay was on my list. So the last place on my list, and I don't know, in retrospect, maybe I should have put this higher, but the Monte Cristo Cigar Lounge at Caesars is great because every now and again I enjoy a cigar. I certainly want to get some cocktails, and that won't be one of your cheaper days, but you're probably not going into the Monte Cristo Cigar Lounge to get blitzed anyway. You want to have a few cocktails. They've got some great spaces for you to sit with your buddies. They've got quite a few TVs around. So if you want other people around, but you don't want to be just absolutely swarmed, the Monte Cristo Cigar Lounge right there by Nobu inside Caesars is a great space to watch a game, as long as your game is one of the ones they're showing. But usually, if it's one of the big games, you ought to be fine.
Right. And if there's not a big crowd, I'm sure like most places, they might adjust the TV for you on request if nobody objects. Although I don't remember if there was sports or not when we went in there. I may have been a little bit distracted by the staff at that particular establishment.
No, you're thinking of Casa Fuente.
Oh, Casa Fuente.
I'm not. And Casa Fuente is a lovely space. But I wasn't. No, I'm actually specifically talking about Monte Cristo.
And let me throw out one dark horse contender that neither of us listed. I think I could be persuaded to watch some Sportsball at Chicago Brewing at the Four Queens.
Yes. I don't know how we both avoided that one. And to be fair, it's probably not one of my top 5, but you know what? That would be an amazing afternoon. And they've got great looking pizza. Yeah, no.
Yeah, that wouldn't be. It didn't make either of our top 5, but as I sit here and think about it, maybe we should have done top 10 because I think that's one that kind of deserves a little.
You know what? Let's make that the honorable mention for both of us.
Yeah, I think that's an easy sell. Okay.
Very cool. Well, what's going on in Vegas news, John?
So we're going to start with a story from Jacob's life in Vegas. You could follow Jacob. He's the obnoxiously handsome bald guy that makes really great content. And he's anywhere on social media you want to look, X or Twitter, Instagram. I happened to find this particular one on Facebook. He posted a menu with Caesar's Palace's, one of their lounges, their drink prices. And Bill, what stood out to you about what Caesar's is wanting to charge?
That you'd have to already be pretty drunk to be willing to pay any of these prices. The cheapest thing on there is a single can of Coors Light or Miller Lite. So you're not even talking about actual beer yet. And it was $10.95. Good grief. Like, I know inflation's a thing, but like a beer and a shot is $21.95. And I'm guessing that shot is not Pappy 12.
Yeah, no. And like a bucket of 5 is $53.95. So we're talking less than a 6-pack for over $50. And these are the kind of things like, my wife and I rented a pool cabana at Caesar's, and they do this at the pool cabana, but like I kind of get it at the pool cabana, although I do think it's ridiculous. But listen, like I know there's an upcharge when you drink at a bar instead of buying your own alcohol. And I know that in a big time on the strip Vegas casino, that upcharge is upcharged. But this really is straining credulity to have an $11 Miller Lite.
In a can.
Yeah.
No. So that's one of the reasons I like Monte Cristo Cigar Lounge. It is not a cheap place to drink. But for your $20, $21 old fashioned, you get a high-end whiskey. They talk to you about which whiskey. They do an excellent job crafting it. If you're getting a beer, it's whatever. Yeah, you've got better choices. It's probably not $11 for a Coors Light. So this is... Where in Caesars was this exactly?
Well, I think this menu is all of their baseline lounges around the casino. So I'd have to go back and see which particular one it was. But there's not a venue name on the menu, which tells you this is the default menu at most of their florid service bars and little carved out lounges.
Yeah, y'all, you can do better.
Yeah, like the beer in a shot feature for $21. Like some of these spirits, Absolute Vodka, like
Actually, I'm trying to expand. Yeah, whatever.
Captain Morgan, rum, Jägermeister, Crown Royal, Jack Daniels.
Yeah, like the best thing on that list is Jameson.
Yeah.
Yeah, which is a good whiskey, which I enjoy. I'm going to do the traditional Episcopalian thing of simply going to my country club instead, paying less than this per drink, and waiting for my bartender's hand to get tired before he quits pouring.
Right.
That's a better deal.
Yeah, I think this is where it starts getting to the point that if I'm staying at a place and these are the prices, you better believe that I'm just buying my booze across the street at Walgreens because this is just, and if I'm in a restaurant and the prices are like this, I get it. I'll have a drink with my meal. But like, seriously, if you're going to sit back and have, a few beers at these prices, you could be over at BrewDog where it's some of the world's best handcrafted beer. I think slightly cheaper, but at least if you're paying, if I'm paying $11 for something brewed by two Scottish geniuses with a great view and an awesome food menu versus the service bar at a side lounge at Caesars for a Coors Light for bottled water pretending to be beer. Yeah, no, that's a hard pass for me.
So listeners, if you've learned nothing else from listening to the Dine Drink Vegas podcast, here is the one thing that I think, I haven't talked with John about this before, but I think he would agree with me that we both want you to know: buy your own booze. Like, go to a bar, or not to a bar, right? Like, go to a liquor store, find whatever it is you like, pour it in your hotel room, and have a walking around drink, because it's just a better deal than some of the absolutely asinine prices like this that you get charged at hotel bars.
And don't buy from the little convenience store in the hotel.
No. Like, find an actual liquor store. And here's the thing, and the prices of that liquor store is still going to be too high. Like, it's going to be higher than in your hometown packaged liquor store, but it's not going to be this mess.
Right. No, and you don't even have to make it to the liquor store, although there's the one at the airport. There's several that are a short cab ride away. But even the ABC stores that are dotted all over the tourist areas of Vegas. Yeah, like I prefer them over Walgreens or CVS. They have a decent selection at prices you can wrap your head around. It's a little bit more than you pay at home, but it's not highway robbery compared to what the essential store at Park MGM is going to run you.
But I don't even mind the CVS. Like Treasure Island, which is one of my favorite spots in Vegas. They've got a CVS store there, and I don't remember what a fifth of Maker's Mark costs there. But I remember thinking, wow, that's pricey, and wow, that doesn't make me hate my soul.
Yeah, right. I think the last time that I looked at Maker's Mark in Vegas, I want to say, a 750 milliliter Maker's Mark was $55, which is $20 more than we would typically pay here, roughly, give or take, depending on the economy.
Which is $30 more than you would pay in a real city.
Right. Like, yeah. But still, like, for what you're getting and where you are, you can get a lot of mileage out of a $50 bottle as opposed to, a $20 shot.
A standard shot in the United States is 1.5 ounces. So in a 750 milliliter bottle, there are 17.98 standard shots. So effectively 18 shots, which means even if you're paying $55 a bottle, you're paying $3 a shot, which is, I promise you, a better deal. And yes, John, you're looking at me as if you're laughing. Of course I know it's 17.98 shots. I can't stop myself.
Yeah.
That's a way better deal than you're getting in the bar downstairs.
Yeah, absolutely. So, we could just see we're in a mode in Vegas where they're making money hand over fist. And it is sort of the MO of modern Vegas. They don't offer the customers great deals until they have to. And I will say this, if you want to do all your drinking at bars, go downtown. One of the reasons Bar Canada was on my list is I can afford to drink at Bar Canada. Don't get me wrong, they're not giving the stuff away for free, and it is more than I would pay at my favorite watering holes at home, but it's numbers I can ride with, whereas I've noticed more and more and more on the Strip, you're just going to pay through the nose because right now Vegas is so popular, they can get away with it.
Yeah. And you know what? I will always be the leader in the luxury lounge, and you will always be the baller on a budget. And I'm coming closer and closer to your position of this stuff is just stupid. Yeah, but there is bound to be news in Vegas beyond drink prices, right?
There is. So Fountainblue has dropped their website. They're already booking hotel stays. So if you're going to be there soon, you can already book. They're going to open in December. And so we've got the website up and looking at some of these dining choices. And a lot of these look like they're going to be signature fine dining establishments, which is not surprised. Fountainblue is not going to be a cheap place to stay. It's not the kind of place I'm going to want to stay every trip in Vegas because I do usually economize. But every now and then, your boy has popped for Palazzo and Bellagio. At some point, I'm doing Fountainblue. So as we look through the list, is there anything that is sticking out to you?
So I'm pulling up the list right now, and the first thing I will say is Fountainblue, as you pointed out, their website is working, which makes them way ahead of the last time I was on MGM's website. We'll get to that later on. So, and this is my first time going through the list. I'm not going to lie. It strikes me as kind of your standard high-end Vegas list. What I'm really curious about is what impact the opening of the Fountainblue is going to have on Resorts World, because this looks to me like essentially the same list of restaurants that they've got at Resorts World with different names slapped on them, but some competition I think may be good in terms of bringing down prices at Resorts World and making them up their game at their spots.
Yeah, and I kind of want to see what this is going to look like in real life once they're launched. I do have to say, like, I do like that they got Cafe Kuto, which you're going to get decent non-big chain, read that as not Starbucks coffee. So I like that they're going to have a specialty coffee joint, because that's one of the things I will always spend big money on is good quality coffee. They've got 2 steakhouses, and I've got to say,
I was about to ask you about that.
Yeah, so they've got. I'm kind of curious about Poppy Steak, because this looks like, it looks like it's going to be kind of a different vibe. I love the picture they have up. I like the style there. I'm kind of curious. They feature caviar on the website and the tomahawk, so this is not going to be cheap. But I'm intrigued by this. I don't think, I don't get to go in December, so it'll be a while before I'm in this property. But I think between the 2 steakhouses, Poppy kind of catches my eye a little bit. They've got a sushi place. They've got Cantina Contramar, so that's going to be signature seafood with a Mexican flair. So I'm intrigued by that. I think there's some things here I want to check out.
There are 2 things which stand out to me. The first is La Fontaine, which describes itself as a plush dining room offering a sophisticated champagne brunch experience, as well as a signature grand tea service. I had a formal tea at the Waldorf Astoria, and that was an amazing experience. A nice tea in Vegas is, it's a pleasant meal to eat. And I think if I'm ever going to get my wife to go back with me to Vegas, that's the sort of thing I do. And I trust if I can get my wife to go with me to tea there at La Fontaine, I'm guessing I can get Mrs. Baller on a budget to go to that with you, right?
Yeah, I think that's a thing that she would quite enjoy.
And I don't know that our wives would even know that we were there, and it's fine. The second thing which stands out to me about this list is you pointed out to it the 2 steakhouses, Don's Prime and Poppy's Steak. So Don's Prime, every occasion is a celebration, the sumptuous steakhouse, blah, blah, blah. And Poppy Steak fuses golden era Hollywood swagger with modern day spectacle, blah, blah, blah. It seems to me like 2 different versions of the same place, and it's just really hard for me to see both of those places making it long term. Like, of course you've got a steakhouse. I'd love to know what their thinking is in having 2, and I kind of got to go in to see how they're different,
And as I look, they've got 3 different coffee shops, which, okay, and again, I'll try them all because I love coffee. I also noticed, like, some of these venues, like, they've got pictures of the Tavern and Vita side by side, and it looks very much like they took the same design and then just changed one up. One's in... Basically, it's like having Twitter in dark mode and Twitter in light mode. If you look at the Tavern and Vita, these pictures, it's almost copy and paste spaces, but they sports barred one up with dim lighting and TVs, and the other one's brighter and but otherwise, like, even the architecture of the bar is the same.
So one last thing before we move on from Fountainblue, I want to see so we were talking about the possibility of making a trip out to Vegas in March. So let me see what it would cost to stay at Fountainblue on those random dates in March. Just for funsies. Because again, in terms of whether that trip actually happens, don't know. But I'm curious. So it's waiting. And the first thing that stands out to me while the hamster is spinning its wheel is that I'm not going to have any kind of a discount there.
Right. And why don't you look at a suite and I'll look at a base room.
Well, and I just pulled up all of them. So the base room is $300 a night on random dates in March. And that already not hugely intrigued. Like, I'm sure it's a lovely room. A suite of any kind. I'm scrolling. So the Platinum King, which is a 660 square foot regular room, is $395. So that might be the sweet spot. A junior suite is $410. It's 896 square feet. So I'm looking.
And by the way, listeners, their website is using the exact same software that MGM does. So if you've ever booked at MGM, it's very easy to navigate. It'll look familiar.
So their suites are actually pretty good deals at $400 or $500. Their regular rooms are $300. So and again, I'm looking at one particular date. I'm not claiming this tells you everything you need to know about this place, but for me, it's a pretty good place to get a nice suite, and probably not a great place if you just want a regular room. Yeah. But who knows how that works out once they've got their deals in their Players Club and all that sort of stuff working.
I mean, I think they have a Platinum King great view 660 square foot room for $415 versus the smaller room for, I want to say, $385 with a strip view. I think this is a place where if you can afford to stay here, go ahead and roll the extra $50 to $100 and get the suite or the premium room, because the gap between the base rooms and the suites or premium views, this is a place that if you can afford it, go ahead and do it. And if you can't afford the premium rooms, stay somewhere else. Because if you're already committed to $300 a night, you might as well go all the way or find a less expensive joint. Yeah, it's an interesting pricing structure. Everything's premium, but moving up from base is it's not the big gap that you get at, say, Aria, where the price gap can be really prohibitive.
I agree. And before we move on to the next story, I want to go back to our drink of the day. So I'm still sipping it, which tells me two different things. One, this is not a get messed up drink, which is probably appropriate because I called it a drink for Thanksgiving dinner, and nobody wants to get messed up around their family because tragedy ensues. Right. So it is a sipping drink. But the second thing is, I am still sipping it, which means I must like it, because we saw what happened on episode 12. I was like, well, that sucks. And I put it aside as quickly as I could. So I will throw out alcohol if it's bad.
Right. Neither of us finished last week. I think I'm onto something here. Not to toot my own horn. Yeah, I think I'm onto something.
And I will definitely never toot your horn. But yeah, this is a good drink.
Right. So next story on here, let's very quickly touch on the Sphere was open. Obviously, we don't have time or money to go see you two during their residency. We both have jobs that make it hard to get out to Vegas this time of year, and paychecks that make it hard to afford U2 tickets. But did you see any of the footage? And if there was an event in the Sphere that hit your schedule and your budget, were you intrigued enough to want to get inside that building?
So I think it's a gorgeous building. I enjoy looking at whatever random things they put on it from the outside. I'm not opposed. If there's something I really want to see, I'm fine to go see it. I don't have any particular need to go inside, and I'm struggling to figure out how they're going to make money over the long term, because they're essentially a $2 billion concert hall with the mother of all electricity bills for their outside displays.
Yeah.
No, I mean, if that's what the group is doing, is fine. I don't know that it's the sort of thing I ever suggest.
So apparently they're doing some movie type experiences in there, and things that they could charge a reasonable number and pack the house. And the screen, it's not 360 degrees around you, but it is immersive. And I could see them creating some things that might compel me to go. I mean, if you gave me a planetarium type, do you remember the feeling of going to the planetarium when you were a kid? I feel like they could come up with something that would hit even the most cynical 2023 adult, the way going to the planetarium in the second grade hit you. If they put some things out there that the average folk can afford to go do, I think they got a shot, because it's a big venue. You could get a lot of people in there. They just have to find that sweet spot of content and price where they can pack a house. I really want to catch something there.
You know what? You call it, and we'll make that on our next Vegas trip. That gets to be the evening you plan, and fine, I'll go. It's not going to be the evening I plan, but I'm happy to go if that's where the group is going.
Yeah, I don't see the need to drop a couple grand on one 2-hour concert necessarily, but I love live music, but I actually prefer more intimate shows. I mean, I'd rather listen to a second or third tier band in a small room. I don't want to see your
intimate shows, John.
Yeah, thank you for that. I would rather catch a lesser band in a smaller venue where you feel like you're interacting and that kind of thing than be part of a big crowd at a stadium concert. I've never been a stadium concert person. So I don't think I would want to go there for music, but I think for some of the other potential of that space, I think there's some events they could throw on that might get me in the door.
Great. Then I will look forward to tagging along with you.
So speaking of things I don't think I'm going to do, in the Neonopolis space in the Fremont Street Experience, they're putting in an outdoor skydiver simulator thingy, and you can get the whole write-up on this over at Vital Vegas's blog, because most of our news comes from Scott at Vital Vegas, because we're too lazy and we don't live in Vegas and we're not going to break any news. Nobody's telling us anything, but they're going to have a bar and a grill, and there's a thing. I guess it's one of those fans, and you put on the parachute suit, and it blows you in the air as if you're free falling in a skydive, and that sounds like a great way to throw up in Vegas. So I don't think this is for me. But you've done zip lines and the like. Is this a thing you would ever do?
The only time I did a zip line, I got stuck halfway down and I got hauled through the jungle between the legs of a hairy Honduran man. So I no longer zip line.
He paid extra for that.
Based on my zip lining experience, I can't imagine the skydiving thing would be any fun, because for one thing, no. You know what? I'll be at the bar. I'll be the fat guy having a cocktail. You boys can catch up with me later.
If you would like to support the podcast by giving Bill a subscription to the OnlyFans account, Harry Honduran Guy, just go ahead and reach out to him on social media.
I already lived it, and no, thank you.
So we're good there. All right. Next news story. The Rio's new owners are starting to take over. They've begun an overhaul. They've launched a new website that looks good. Now, I didn't start going to Vegas till later in life because I just flat couldn't afford it. And I also went through a phase where I had a bunch of moral objections to doing anything that's remotely fun. So I never got to see the Rio in its heyday. Bill, what do you think? Is a refreshed and remodeled Rio a place you want to check out?
It is. So I went there, and I don't remember the exact year. It was roughly 2006-ish, give or take, more or less, with a couple of buddies of mine. That was long before I had ever met you. And we went to the buffet, and I remember thinking, this place used to be kind of cool. But that was at least 15 years ago that I had the thought that this place used to be kind of cool. I can't imagine that it's gotten better since then. So, you know what? I'm kind of waiting for them to refresh themselves, but sure, you can tell how it would have been a prime spot during its heyday. And what I'm waiting for them to do is make some sort of a connection to some other hotel, I don't know, some sort of a weird walkway to the Palms, some sort of a better connection down to the Strip, something like that. But sure, once I get done with the remodel, I'll go check it out.
Yeah, I mean, one of the missed opportunities in the A's, and I know that we may flip-flop these stories so we can segue from Rio to Major League Baseball. At one point, there was talk of the A's buying the lot just between the Rio and the Bellagio, and then in that development, they would have come up with a walkway and maybe even a moving sidewalk to get you from the Rio to the A Stadium up to Caesars or Bellagio. So you would have then had a way to connect.
And you would have loved that with the moving sidewalk.
Yeah, I don't do moving sidewalks, but I would make that walk.
Maybe they'd have some escalators and stuff.
Yeah, and I'll take the stairs. It'll be fine. But my point being that I think my preference for the A's location would have been that, because I think the symbiotic relationship then between the Strip, the ball club, and the Rio really could have allowed for some really neat things. And I almost kind of wonder if Caesars hadn't sold the Rio by the time baseball started becoming more of a real thing, if they wouldn't have held on to the Rio and found a way to make that happen. But that's, at this point, historical conjecture and fiction. But yeah, I want to see this up, and I can even envision a 4-night trip to Vegas where it's 2 nights in the Rio and then 2 nights at the Palms or Red Rock or some other place that's a little bit disconnected from the action, but there's enough under that roof to occupy you for a night or two.
Fair. So speaking of where the baseball stadium should be, the Major League Baseball Relocation Committee is meeting this week to talk about the A's potential move to Las Vegas. And I still believe this move happens, but I'm not going to lie, I'm a little surprised that there aren't more notes of done deal in all of this. And I get it, at some point, there are formal things which have to happen, and this is one of the formal steps in the process. And sure, that is moving along. And yes, I still expect it to happen. But something smells funny to me about why are we still talking about the details? Like, why do we not know for certain where this is going to be and exactly how the A's are going to pay for it and all of that? So we know there's a meeting this week, and I trust I'll have a better update for you in a couple of weeks when we record episode 14.
Yeah, I will say this. Like, I get your skepticism, and I could see a million ways that this thing goes sideways. But since we started news talking about Fountainblue, if that boondoggle eventually led to an actually open and functioning casino, Vegas is a place where anything can happen. So I still think this ultimately gets done. But yeah, I got to say, this is a darn messy process, and I sure can't see this falling out.
Yeah, no, I can see it falling out. I don't think it does. I still don't know what I guess what I'm saying is I don't know what the final shape of all this looks like.
Yeah, and I agree. And like, I wonder if even the current planned location of the Trop is going to hold. Although it sounds like the Trop's going to move ahead with closing and remodeling no matter what. So hopefully they get their ballpark, because I mean, they've got a lot riding on that. And I want to see that corner become interesting, because, one of my favorite places to stay is either at New York or Park MGM, depending on my mood. But that spot is my favorite place on the Strip. And to have another property in walking distance that's worth going to do stuff at, like, I would really love to see the Trop get better. And I would love to stay at New York or Park MGM and go over and catch a night of baseball. Like, I really do hope this lands.
I do too. So the Trop is in a different ecosphere, but all of the other casinos around it are M-Life casinos, MGM Rewards casinos. So let's talk a little bit more about that hack. I'm seeing various estimates of how much money that costs, but it amounts to a lot. I know I got an email from MGM, the middle of this week, which said, hey, gosh, we moved aggressively to contain all of this, and most of your data wasn't hacked, probably. And I haven't gotten the follow-up email, so maybe my data was safe. Good luck, listeners. I hope your data was safe and all of that. But I just logged on to the MGM Rewards website, and I wanted to see if things work. But you know what? First, because we go down rabbit holes. So it says, important information for MGM Rewards members about our cybersecurity incident. Click here. And they've got a great big FAQ page, most of which is covered in the email you probably got. But okay, so one of the questions: I was not able to redeem my tier appreciation dining credit. Will I still get those benefits? Members who were impacted by the recent operational issues and earned the tier appreciation dining credit during this period will receive future communication when we're able to add that benefit in the form of MGM reward points to your account. For qualifying members who were not able to redeem the air travel credit during this period, you will have the opportunity to request a one-time post-trip redemption of this benefit. More information about how to request your air travel credit will be shared shortly. So that actually impresses me, because there are a whole lot of people whose trips were messed up actively and in the process. And it looks like MGM is slowly moving to make things right. I'm not going to go through all of those, but it looks like they do realize they have some sort of obligation to the customers who were there when the incident was happening.
Yeah, but I can't, as long as this is dragged on, I can't help but wonder if maybe they wish they had taken the Caesars option of just paying the sons of guns to get it out of their hair. I don't know. Then again, maybe the fact that they paid hostage money, that's the reason why Caesars is now charging $11 for a Coors Light. So I don't know about that either, but
let's go on the MGM Rewards website. So I'm going to sign in now. Let's see if I can sign into my account. Next. So what we're doing right now, folks, is a live technical check. Is their website working?
On October the 8th of 2023, just to give you a little timestamp on this.
It is at the very least very, very slow, but it appears to be moving. All right, so I was able to log into my account. Let me see. Wait. Okay, no, view account, my rewards.
And I want to see if you have better look, because I checked a couple hours ago and I could not.
MGM reward account balances are currently unavailable.
Right.
So let me see what happens when I book a room, because I gamble more than I optimally should have on this last trip. and I want to see if it's attaching any new efforts. So we're going to go for those theoretical March dates, right? The ones we just looked at for the Fountainblue. And I don't have any kind of updated offers or anything like that. They have declined from my last trip when I gambled more than normal. So it looks to me like, so, I mean, all of the basic services are working, but it looks to me like the underlying architecture isn't there, right? Like they still can't reward their players properly.
In terms
they're
of the
still
rewards.
They're still trying to figure out stuff like how do we reimburse you for rewards you couldn't cash in on your last trip.
So the architecture of can I book a room? Yes, that's working, but the connection between the booking process and the orders, because I cannot help but think that you and I both should see an improvement of offers based on our
the
Labor Day trip.
Made.
Yeah.
Yes.
I'm not a high roller, but I spent enough and risked enough on my 2 summer trips that historically that gets me something from MGM. And right now it's not. So I don't think they've become more stingy than they've been, although they're definitely, like when they redid the rewards program, they tightened things up quite a bit a few years ago. But my guess is this is not them tightening up. This is they can't process my stay and play into meaningful data right now. That's going to have to come back online later. Yeah. I hope it does, because right now I've got a room in March booked for the Link. And I got a pretty decent deal there, but I'm kind of hoping MGM, throws me a bone and gives me a reason to stay in their ecosystem. If not, I guess I'll try Caesars out, although they're not getting $11 out of me for a Coors Light, I'll tell you that. No, but we'll see what happens.
Sorry, funny note, which doesn't have much to do with anything, but I'm looking at my account, and on those random dates in the second week of March, I've got several hotels that are free, several hotels that are not. But weirdly, Park MGM, can you see the screen from where you are?
No.
Okay, cool. So since you can't see my screen from where you are, guess how much Park MGM wants per night from me?
I'm going to guess they're going about $295.
No, they want $16 a night. And at that point, I'm kind of wondering why you bother. Like if you want half the amount that you're going to charge me in resort fees, less than half the amount.
Yeah, go ahead and waive that and get me in there on resort fees only,
and tell me that it's free, even though we know it's not.
We know it's
resorts fee.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That is officially the weirdest price I've ever seen in Vegas. Like the New York, which is literally next door, is free. But at the Park MGM, they want $16.
And I do feel like that is one of the things that I keep seeing in their ecosystem. I don't think that there's a big gap in style between New York, and Park MGM. I don't think there's a big gap in quality, especially with the room refreshes at New York. And yet the pricing structure, they kind of treat the prices at New York like it's the Dirty Castle, when in my mind, it is definitely a big step up from that.
Oh, gosh.
And don't get me wrong, I'm not complaining. I hope they don't listen, because it's making New York a bargain for me. I'm just not sure I agree. Maybe I shouldn't say it out loud because I don't want them to reconsider. But I think if you're staying at an MGM property, I think that's what makes New York such a great value pick, because the quality of the space, and they are small rooms, but the quality of the rooms and the energy and vibe in that building and the proximity to so many other things, I don't know why you would stay at Excalibur when New York is right there, and it's such a better experience.
Well, and like I've got some reviews of New York up on the YouTube channel. Yeah, it's a legit nice place.
Yeah. It's not luxurious, but then again, I don't think of Park MGM as luxurious. I do think it's quieter. So, my wife and I had this conversation. If she wants and she loves that end of the Strip too. If she views it as a romantic getaway for just the two of us and she wants the quiet space, she wants Park MGM. But if she wants to be, and she's a bigger introvert than you are, but when she's in the mood that she wants to be a little more social, New York is a more fun, vibrant property. But she even views them as 1A and 1B, not as a quality gap between the two.
Absolutely.
All right. Well, I think that's going to do it for us this time around. We thank you so much for listening. And the podcast is not even close to the only content we provide. So, Bill, since you're the boss of this outfit, why don't you tell everybody where they can find us?
We have new content coming out every week on our YouTube channel, which is Dine Drink Vegas. Occasionally stuff coming out on Dine Drink Vegas Shorts, which is a different YouTube channel. We also are on X or Twitter or whatever they're calling themselves today at Dine Drink Vegas, as well as on
Dine Drink John.
Or at Dine Drink John and at Dine Drink John.
Yes.
As well as on the Facebook and on Instagram is the word I was looking for.
Yeah, we should get around to Threads too at some point. I may take that on.
I did like 2. It was fun.
Yeah, I like Threads. It's kind of Twitter-ish. I don't know.
Yeah.
All right. Well, with that, we thank you so much for listening. We hope that you keep coming back for more. If you have suggestions on the drink of the day or anything else in Vegas, or if you want to argue with us about sports locations that we overlooked and how wrong we are, absolutely drop us comments wherever you listen to our podcast, and we will catch you next time.